morning, everyone. All right, so it's been a while since I've made a video, and I just thought to do it right now. So here we are. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I guess I should probably explain why I haven't made videos in such a long time. It's been months, actually. The main reason why is it was exhausting. The reason why I was making the videos was making it exhausting. The content that I was sharing was an effort to share what I was learning. However, I was only learning intellectually because I was absorbing it intellectually in order to convey it intellectually. So there wasn't much processing going on with the things that I was sharing. Here and there, yes, but on an emotional level, no, it wasn't happening. And so I had recognized that, and I needed to take a step back. And so I simply was learning, or I should say I was keeping to myself what I was learning and absorbing it and emotionally processing it. Because I was doing a great job at intellectualizing it. I understood it intellectually, but it just wasn't hitting home, and I needed to do something. And so that's why I took a step back. I was sharing information with people. I was helping people off the videos, and it was too much. It was like, okay, here I am, and, sharing this information, helping people get clarity, but honestly, they weren't even getting it emotionally. But it wasn't because they didn't know how. They didn't want to. They wanted to absorb it intellectually and feel that they learned something about themselves or others, or how other people interact with one another, or how our lives, are guided, and all these different things. It was all intellectual, and to be honest, I felt like I was wasting my time. So I wasn't seeing results in others, so I had to stop and ask myself, well, why am I putting off my own growth to help someone who truly doesn't want to help themselves? And that was something that was really difficult for me to do, because in the beginning I felt like, well, now I'm being selfish because I'm not sharing information with other people, or I'm being selfish because I'm not willing to help other people. But the bottom line is we have to help ourselves. And I had to realize that for myself. It was easy for me to say that for to other people, hey, you're the only one who can do the work. But as I'm saying it, I'm not living it. And that was the problem that I was having with myself. I was slowly starting to recognize it. And I probably mentioned it in videos too, or you probably noticed it in videos. But that's the real reason why I took a step back, from making these videos. And I made a whole bunch of excuses. I was like, oh, I don't have in the beginning, God, Zachary. In the beginning, I kept saying my phone isn't working right, and it wasn't working right, and I was waiting to get the new one, and then I got the new one, and then I found another excuse as to why I couldn't make the videos. I was like, oh, well, the phone that I have doesn't work with the mount that I already have. I tell you, I was coming up with all kinds of stuff, and then, I just was like, it's exhausting. I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I just didn't want to do it. Just because I felt like I was being taken advantage of. Not in general, but by certain people that were seeking my help. There were individuals that were actively seeking my help, and I was attempting to help them understand some things that they had questions about. But it was just like this loop. It was just going over and over and over again. It was like I was talking and talking and talking, and they weren't getting it, and I was like, I need to stop. I was like, okay, so what's the point? Because I wasn't seeing results. And that's another thing I had to recognize, is that if I'm going to help someone, I have to do it freely. I can't have any ties to it. I can't have any ties to the result, meaning I can't help someone only because I want to see an improvement in someone else's life. I have to be okay with someone not doing anything with their life. I have to be okay with someone destroying their life. I have to be okay with that, because that is their free will choice. Even if they don't know it or believe it, I know it. Therefore, I have to be okay with it, if that makes any sense. And in a way, it sounds like oh, well, that's unloving. Well, you know what? That's something you have to deal with. It's not my deal. So this is a whole bunch of reasons, why I didn't, or why I stopped making videos. But looks like I'm starting up again. I don't know. This may be, this may be a fluke. I don't know. I'm just going with it. But there's a topic that I did want to talk about, which is accessing or realizing, or admitting our emotional injuries that we have. It's hard to access them because there's so much fear surrounding it, and we make up these excuses. They're just a bunch of excuses as to why we cannot access these things. So I was chatting with someone not too long ago, and it was about how they think that this system sucks. It's like, okay, we live our lives, and for the most part, we have a bunch of unwanted experiences, things that cause us a lot of stress, a lot of pain, things like that. And the reason why that happens is because we're denying so much. We're denying the pain, and that creates a feeling within us of stress, of fear, worry, just all kinds of things. And then we engage with the law of attraction with all that junk we're holding in our soul, and so then all these different experiences come to us, and we feel a certain way about it. And that's the problem, is we feel a certain way about it, but we don't acknowledge the law of attraction that's at work, that's bringing it to us, that's responding to us, because law of attraction does not bring you something that is not within you. So it's not going to bring you pain if that pain isn't within you, and it certainly isn't going to bring you abundance if that feeling, if the feeling of abundance isn't within you. So the law of attraction will not bring you anything that you do not deserve. And so we have to ask ourselves, well, what do we deserve? And then we have to ask ourselves, well, what's within our soul? Because what's within our soul is dictating what we deserve. But most times in our mind, we don't feel we deserve it. But it's rightfully ours. Like, our experiences are rightfully ours. But we don't want to own it. We want to say the world is messed up and our parents did this and our parents did that. And true, yes, that is the case. The parents are the ones that are responsible for the things that are within our soul because they didn't want to deal with it. However, their parents are responsible for the things that our parents have that have been passed on to us. And so it's this long, line of nonsense that goes all the way back to the first man and woman who were here on earth. So they're the ones who started this chain of events. That cracks me up, I swear it does. Because it's so long ago and it's still going. But each and every last one of us, we have the option to change it. We have the option to do something different than our parents did. But it seems so hard because when we try, it's usually from the point of a mental attempt. We're trying to do it with our mind. Okay, we figure this out. We know that, mom and dad were jacked up, and that's why I'm jacked up. So they did this, so I need to do this. And that is not going to work. It's not going to work. This is why people keep trying and failing. Same thing with relationships. One doesn't work out, you break up with that one, you get into the next one, and the same nonsense happens. And then, you see these mothers with all these kids from different daddies because it's the same thing. It's the same thing happening over and over and over again because the cause is still within us. So what we have to do is get rid of the cause. But what's the cause? The cause is the emotion. Well, the emotion comes from, one, our parents at conception, and two, by the emotions that we keep inside of us when something happens, or I should say when the interaction happens between us and our parents. So, for instance, if a mother or father doesn't allow you to express yourself, then you're going to feel closed down. You're going to feel like, hey, automatically, you as a soul, it knows freedom. That's what the soul knows. We are programmed to know, to understand what this is. But on the flip side of that, we're also programmed to know when it's being taken away. And this is why children cry when you take something away from them. They have something in their hand, could be a toy, a glass, whatever it is that they have in their hand. But the moment you take it away, they know that they are being deprived of something that they want. And it is this experience that is the impetus of all of it. It's like, okay, I'm going to take this child's toy away. The child is going to cry, and I'm going to tell the child, no, stop crying. Automatically, we are being taught to not release the emotion that is God-given to let us know when something isn't right. So, as this continually happens, and if you look at your childhood, and maybe this wasn't your childhood, maybe you've had a childhood that was more allowing of your freedom and free will, but that's not the norm. That is a rarity, which is why we have a lower number of successful people. But anyway, going back, so here we have, years of suppressing our reaction to our freedom being taken away. So by the time we reach 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, we've already established with our parents that don't try it. Don't even try it. It's already been established that it's okay for our freedoms to be taken away, and we're not supposed to complain about it, because that's what parents do. Shut up, stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. This is the norm. This is the norm. It's sad, and it creates so many problems, but it's the norm. It just is, but this is what has to be recognized in order for anyone to get over the pain that is locked within the soul. So when you were a child and you had your freedoms taken away, your first reaction was to cry, was to release the pain that you were feeling when that toy was taken away. That is the process. But our parents don't allow that. Therefore, that instance, that experience, that one experience is locked within your soul. And if you're not able to release it, then it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be locked in there, but then another experience happens. And that is another experience, and another one happens, and another one happens. And these are all different moments in time that you have felt pain and were forced to keep it in, not release it, because the parents didn't want to hear it. And basically, the true reason why parents don't want to hear their children cry is because then they have to acknowledge that they're doing something to the child that the child does not like. They have inflicted pain, because we as adults know that if a child is crying, it's for a reason. And if someone makes a child cry, it's because of what they did to the child. So if a stranger comes up and slaps a mother's child, they're going to get angry. And if the child cries, they're going to know that it was a stranger's fault, or the stranger's what word am I looking for? I don't know. Fault. Even though I don't want to use fault, because it's really not that. If you're going to go Mercedes, go. It's the reason why the child is crying. So it's okay for them. It's like, okay, I understand why my child is crying. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. There. Right? Again, they're still shutting down, but sometimes a mother will say it's okay, meaning it's okay to let the tears out. He wasn't supposed to do that. But when a parent does it to their own child, they don't want to recognize that, and this is the problem. This is the problem, is the parents do not want to recognize the harm that they are causing or inflicting upon their child. And this goes on for their life until they move out, but almost damn near close. Depending on how involved the child is with the parent, because if the child moves out at say 18 and the mother or the parents have been controlling for that amount of time, then oh my God, that's a big problem. That's a big problem, because that means that that child has been suppressed for, let's say, 18 years. 18 years of accepting it. So let's say that they're 18, they move out and they're like, oh, I'm great, I'm just moving out, but they've been suppressed that entire time, versus a child who moves out at 18 that are just furious with their parents because of how unloving they were. We react to these things differently, so it can end up in any kind of way. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So anyway, I was talking to oh my God, I was talking to someone, or chatting with someone, and they said, this is just nonsense. Like, who thought of this I almost spit out my breakfast when I read it, but it's whose idea was it to come up with this, this system? The system of, oh, I thought it smelled skunk. Let me turn this off. The system of how we're to process these emotions and get them out, because it's difficult. And the difficult part about it, well, for that particular individual, was how does one acknowledge that their parents have done something to them that has caused a lot of pain, to the point where they're totally locked up and they're not able to experience life at all. They're just going through it day by day, but not really living, just experiencing nothing but pain, and the pain coming from their law of attraction experiences. So how does one get to the bottom of that when you feel guilt every time you do it? That's the hard part, is acknowledging that your parents have done something to you that is unloving, that is painful, and has caused a lot of pain, a lot of grief, a lot of fear, a lot of all kinds of things that are unloving, or results of unloving actions. How do you get over that? That's a difficult thing, because you don't want to have unloving thoughts towards your parents, because obviously you've been guilted into not being able to do that. Like, you can't do that. Most children cannot say that, hey, you did this without feeling guilty. But the reason why that is because the parents made you feel guilty every single time you did it. I cook and clean for you, I provide for you, I feed you, I do this. And sometimes they even threaten them and say, I brought you into this world and I'll take you out. So that's basically saying, a child is understanding this as, you're going to kill me if I bring out the truth, if I speak the truth of what's going on within me, if I show you that I have pain, if I show you that you're harming me, you're going to kill me. Like, I've said this before in a different video, but that's literally how a child interprets this. The child does not interpret it as an adult. So a parent may not have any thought of really killing you, but it's used as a fear tactic. Do you understand? And that is an unloving thing to do. And so no matter how you slice it or dice it, it's unloving. And this is what most parents project onto their children, are unloving things. Whether it's an action or, behaviors, it doesn't matter what it is. These are the things that are traumatizing and that wreck the lives of God's children, basically. Because we are God's children, our souls. And so, since these emotions are locked within the soul, which is the actual creation of God, which means that we are God's children since we are made in His image, it's in the soul, it's not the body. So here we are, screw it. Uh-oh, this looks like a lot of traffic, and my map is not up. So here we have these parents that are just jacking up God's children, like just truly jacking them up. And it's crazy. But going back, it's like, how does one, I don't know if I should, I'll go straight. I'll just go straight. I'll probably regret it, but whatever. What was I? This is a rambling video. But going back to what I'll try to go back to what I was talking about because I get distracted easily. So yeah, it's very difficult to jacking up God's kids. Yeah. I mean, really. You know, parents think that we the children are theirs, and they feel since we are theirs, they have the right to do any and everything they choose, like a piece of property. Like they went out and they bought a TV or a car, and since they purchased it, it's theirs. They can treat it any way they please, and that is not the case. And this is the reason why many parents end up in the hells of the first dimension, because they're doing these things that are so unloving to God's children. Like, that is the reason why. That is the punishment for doing anything unloving to God's children. It's really that simple. So, if you knew from the beginning that what you claim to be your kids weren't your kids and they were the children of God, then would you treat them differently? It's almost like, no, it's not almost like, it is like you watching the child of a friend and you abusing that child, and then that parent coming back and doing something to you because you have harmed their child. It is no different. You have to pay for the things that you do. But the thing is, with God's system, there are universal laws to take care of this. There are universal laws to take care of this. So, your punishment is whatever you experience, whether it's here or when you die, because you don't die, you're still alive. I know it would be great, right? I can see why people are so gravitated towards the idea of our sins are forgiven, because they don't have to pay for anything that they've ever done. I mean, really think about it, because we know the things that we have done that are unloving. And the people who think they're going to be in paradise and all this other stuff, I can see why people gravitate towards that. Woo! Rude awakening, and that's all I have to say about it. So the system is set up to take care of that. And that's what our law of attraction is. But something like the person that I was chatting with, they can't understand, or they probably do understand, but they don't like it. They don't like the fact that as children, we have to pay for what our parents did. I think that part of the system is not really, it's not accepted. I mean, it's just not accepted. It's like, that's jacked up. They feel it's unloving. But God didn't do it. And they blame God for this for the most part. But God didn't do it. Your parents did. Just like the what I say, not the punishment, but just like I guess I can say punishment, I don't know, or the consequences. Just like the consequences of that the mother has to experience based on how they treated their child. Well, their parents have to experience their consequences for how they treated their child. And that's just the way that it is. So, children are actually a gift from God. The way the system works is that the child will come in and mirror what the mother or father has within them, so that the parent can see what dwells within their soul. But because none of this stuff is taught in these so-called religions, these we are the truth religions, since it's not taught, you don't know. And you can't teach or live by something that you don't know. So the only thing you know is the things that you're taught. And if you're taught a whole bunch of lies, a whole bunch of errors, a whole bunch of untruths, then you're going to live your life by those untruths that you learn. And that's not, for me, that's not anybody's fault. I think that the fault or the blame, if you want to call it that, is when someone, like for instance, someone hears this video and they're like, no, I don't believe that. Well, if the truth is presented to you and you don't want to hear it, then yes, that's your fault. That is on you. And because you want to ignore it, you're going to have to suffer the consequences that are attached to that. That's how it is. We each have individual free will. I don't know if I'm making it work on time. We all have our individual free will. So despite what our parents did or didn't do, we have the will, the right, the free will to change that. But how do you change it? Well, it's in these videos that I'm sharing with people, which is another reason why oh my gosh, people want snippets of information. They don't want to learn the whole thing. So people ask me questions, and yes, I have the answers for their questions, but it's only because I spend countless hours learning about how this stuff works. I mean countless hours. I can spend 8 hours a day listening to audio, taking it in intellectually, and I can give it to other people. But other people only want the 15-minute version of it, and you can't learn anything like that. You just can't. It's like you've never baked a pie before, and there's a whole process, and you just say, okay, these are all the ingredients, but they don't want to know the steps. They just want to know what goes in it. Well, how the hell do you make the pie? How do you get that perfect pie that you so desire? If you only have the quick reference version of it, I mean, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work, but, I post a bunch of videos on my YouTube, and they're long. They're hours long. Sometimes they're 3 hours long, 2 hours long, an hour and 45 minutes, an hour long. But the people want the 5-minute version of it. And you cannot shove 3 hours and 5 minutes. You just can't. Oh, it's $2.70 this morning, huh? Must really be bad. We're gonna get on the express lane. So, oh my gosh. There's just so many reasons why I didn't make videos. That was a big one too, why I didn't want to make the videos. I didn't want to be responsible for people getting snippets and making decisions based on a fraction of information. But then I had to realize I'm not the one doing it. This is their stupidity, and it really is stupidity. It's laziness and stupidity to think that you can get a day's worth of information shoved in 5 minutes. I mean, come on. You just can't do it. You can't do it. You have to have some kind of foundation in order to grasp it, and if you don't have the foundation, you can't make sense of anything. So, and people are lazy, and they're like, oh, I have ADD or AHDD or whatever, all these acronyms. I don't know. People claim to have all these different things that they use as an excuse not to learn the fullness of something that they claim they want to know about. It doesn't work that way. And as long as you or anyone else who's listening to this video, as long as you keep approaching life that way, you will continue getting the results that you're getting before you even thought about changing. In order to change, you have to have the information that allows that change. And if you reject the information, how it's presented in its original state, you got a problem. You got a problem. And now you just added another problem to the problems you already have. Because before anyone attempts to change, they're experiencing life a certain way. And they get to a point where they are dissatisfied with that way of living. So they seek out change. But they want it quick. They want it fast, in a hurry. And so they look for these 15-minute videos and 5-minute videos to combat the years of programming that they've had. Oh, please don't be on this side. I see lights flashing up there. Look at all this traffic I'm passing up. Woohoo! To undo years of all this programming that caused the jacked up life to begin with. So here, you have this life that you want to change. You attempt to change it using snippets of full information, And then you get frustrated because things aren't changing. So not only are you experiencing the previous unwanted version of your life, but now you've added this other frustration on top of it because it's not changing. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't benefit. Oh no. See, people, they don't pay attention on these freeways. They just don't. Look at this. Look. See, nonsense. It's nonsense. People not paying attention. Oh, it looked like it was a motorcycle. Well, there you have it. These people, these people on these motorcycles, they ask for it. I mean, they ask for it. They zip in and out. They don't even let you know, give you time to even let you know that they're there. Oh my gosh. Anyway, don't let me go on that tirade. So, we have to understand. You have to understand. If you want to change, you have to take the bull by its horns and ride it completely. You just have to. You can't just be like, oh, well, I'll do this and I'll do that. And I just want this to change, so I'll work on this. No. Before change can happen, you have to understand what the heck's going on with you first. People want to make these changes, these drastic life changes, but they have no clue what's wrong with them. So this is why this new age stuff is so appealing to people. It's why it's so appealing. Because it seems like all you have to do is this, breathe in, breathe out, and, hold some crystals in your hand, burn some sage. Woo! That was like a roller coaster. Anyway, burn sage and do all these different things. It doesn't, it just doesn't. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. Oh my gosh. I talk to so many people about, it comes up what I do. I tell them, I'm a hypnotist. And then I say I'm a hypnotist. They're like, oh wow. And then I tell them we don't have, I tell them I do past life regressions, and then I tell them we don't have past lives. That stumps them. It does. And I have to crack up because, okay, I identify with past life regression because that's what it's called, but we don't have past lives. Oh my gosh. This is too much. This is too much. Oh, I'm not even going to go down that road. I don't want to go down that road. Anyway, if you want to change, you have to understand what's going on within you. And part of not understanding this is denial, not wanting to see it. The reason why we can't see it is because we've been taught not to see it. We don't see our pain because our parents taught us not to see our pain. Every time they said, stop crying, what are you crying for? You're crying for nothing. You're a crybaby. You're this, you're that. Nobody's harming you. That was teaching you to not recognize the pain that you were feeling at that time. That's what that is. So the reason why you can't access it is because you've been trained not to access it. And as an adult, it's accepted to... Again, it's not, people don't want to admit that they're having hardships. They don't want to admit that they're feeling pain. So they portray this facade that everything's fine. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm good. I'm okay. Because it's viewed as being weak if we do have these feelings of pain or fear or sadness, anger, all of these things. We claim that there's nothing wrong, but when we yell at our kids, it's quite clear that something is wrong. But you'll blame it on the kids. It's the kids. That's why the parent is upset, and it's not it. It was never it. It was never it. The kids are just acting out all the crap that you, as a parent, didn't deal with. So how is it their fault? Just like it wasn't your fault when your parents did the same thing to you, but this is not recognized. And this has to be recognized. The pattern has to be recognized so that you can access it without feeling you have to blame the other person. This is where the understanding comes from. You have to understand the pattern. Once you understand the pattern, there can't be any guilt. It's like, well, as a parent, I'm not guilty or responsible for this, so that means my parents, didn't know what they were doing, because I didn't know what I was doing when I did it to my kids. So, I don't know. I was going to stop in that McDonald's, but I'm so hungry. I didn't really have time for breakfast. Anyway, I have to end this video pretty soon anyway. I'm close to work. So, I don't know. What's the message? The message, if you want to change, you have to acknowledge what dwells within you that's causing you to even want to change. There's a cause to everything that is being experienced. Everything. And you're not going to get to it if you're denying it. And if you feel guilty about seeing where it came from, you're going to have to work on that, because there's a fear. It's like, oh, well, I don't want my parents to think that I'm ungrateful for the things that they did do. Because, yes, the parents did do things that were right. They did feed us. They did take care of us in certain ways, but they failed in others. And it's this thing that has to be recognized and realized and understood on a emotional level, not just intellectually. It has to be understood on an emotional level. That's the hard part, because anytime someone attempts to see what their parents have done to them that's unloving, there's an automatic feeling of guilt and sometimes shame for even thinking such a thing, because that's what our parents have instilled in us. If we were to ever show them the unloving things that they were doing to us. So it's important. This part is very important to realize. All right, I gotta turn off this video because I'm in the hood. All right, you guys, take care of yourselves, and I'll be sure to make up more. What kind of video? Coherent video, because this one was kind of random, but at least I put some kind of lesson in there, I guess. I don't know. All right, so have a good one. You're loved. Bye now.